goddammit!
Clear the air lanes for the big broadcast.
We're not professional podcasters.
Say what?
We barely know what we're doing.
It's funny because it's true.
But we have fun anyway.
I'm here to podcast.
Does everybody know what time it is?
We're going streaky! Yeah!
No, we're not. It's time for movies, pop culture, and more with the all-new Culture Cast, starting now. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jen.
And this is the all-new Culture Cast. Gorehound has the night off. Apparently something was going on, so he'll be unable to join us in our discussion of the third season of the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I keep on calling the show incredible, but it's unbreakable.
That's fair. Do you think we should use this, since we don't have a man crush of the week, do you think we should use this time to talk shit about Gorehound, or what do you want to do?
Well, obviously we're going to talk shit about Gorehound.
Obviously.
Like he couldn't make it tonight. What sort of bullshit is that? But
You know, the reason he couldn't make it was probably because he was watching more Shameless, so he could look at that one guy.
Probably, and let's face it, if we did Man Crush of the Week, it would be that one guy, so...
Anyway, so let's get to what we've been watching lately.
Oh, yeah, I guess we should get on that.
What have you been watching?
Nothing really since we last talked, I suppose. I'm assuming I'm just going first. I just started talking. That's because, that's what I do. I'm inconsiderate. But, not so much what I've been watching, but what I've been reading. As you may remember, a couple months ago, one of my New Year's resolutions is to read at least one novel a month.
Yeah, how have you been keeping up on that?
I've been good. I'm actually... There were some things that were going on around the April where I just did not have time to read at night, and so I'm technically a month behind. So one of these months I'll read 2 books in the month, which I'm kind of on my way to do it for this month, but we'll see what happens. But I'm doing pretty good. The book that I just finished up is I found it on my shelf. I had it. I read it in 5th grade. It was my absolute favorite book when I was a little kid, and I'm like, I want to read it again. It was Tuck Everlasting. Did you ever read this one?
Oh, I definitely read it. And then they had a movie version of it that I never saw, but was thinking about like a couple months ago as something I should look to see if I can find.
The movie, there's actually 2 movie versions. The first one is old and awkward and kind of weird, but the second one came out about a decade or so ago. I think it starred Alexis Bledel.
Yes.
From what I remember of it, that was a fairly faithful adaptation. I wouldn't mind. That should be a future topic for this show here, honestly. But
I would super do that because I definitely read the book and enjoyed it, but also couldn't tell you a ton specific about it.
I will say, rereading the book it's been fun. You pick up more things when you're older than you are when you read something when you're younger, and this must be the first time I've read it in a good 20, 25 years, which is a weird thought process. But
oh, definitely.
I loved it when I was younger. We had to read for a class assignment, and I remember when I was little, I was sick one day. Instead of just reading up to what we had to read for the assignment, I was like, I want to keep reading. I just finished off the entire book. And I thought it was so cool when I came back to class, like, I know how the book ends, and you guys don't. But the book still holds up. There's one element which didn't seem creepy to me as a kid, but now is kind of weird. The main character in the book, a 10-year-old girl, and she goes with the Tuck family, and I wouldn't call it a love interest, but she has a little crush on the Tuck's 17-year-old son. Okay.
Oh.
Like that's
definitely don't remember that there was that giant age gap.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yuck.
Yeah. So you know where I'm going with this, right?
That's gross.
I could see a little girl being like, ooh, look at the cute older guy. But he kind of plays into it as well. He's like, Winnie, when you're 17, drink the potion or drink the water and you'll stay immortal with us. And it's kind of like, oh, that's uncomfortable. And even worse is, of course, this kid's immortal, so he's more like 117 years old. But yeah, in the movie version, they aged Winnie up to make it seem not creepy. But,
That's good. I definitely, the older I get, the more I like, okay, say what you will about the Twilight movies. They were fun. But
I like the Twilight
anytime.
movies.
Oh, that's
Like-
okay. I didn't know that about you.
Let's say I'm not a, what do they call it, Twihard, or what do they call it?
Twihard.
But in terms of cheesy, goofy, entertaining movies, yeah, I don't mind
Yeah.
them.
They get progressively more batshit.
Oh yeah.
But so anyway, anytime you've got something like that, or you've got like a Buffy Angel situation, you've got like a vampire with like a human lady, and you don't necessarily think about it, but then, like he's, one of the reasons why significant age differences in relationships are often creepy is because there is kind of that like power differential, where like you don't, you have to really think about it if you're going to date someone with a significant age gap, because it can be a little weird sometimes. And so when you've got Angel being like 246 years old and Buffy is 17 years old, and you're like, so not only is she, a little bit young to be doing this anyway, but also it's just sort of weird and gross that he's, got 240 years more life experience than her. Like, it just really accentuates the power differential. On top of being like a, mildly mythical creature, and she's a human, and, she's a slayer, but still, it's definitely something you think about, and you're like, oh, that's sort of weird. So anyway, my advice to anyone listening is to not date any immortal creatures if you can do it. If you can not do it, that would probably just be better for everyone. Anyway, all right, so enough about that. What have I been doing lately? I've watched almost nothing. It's, I've been watching Kimmy Schmidt, and I have to say, the fact that you're not tethered to a television anymore with Netflix, you can watch on a device, is very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Netflix. The only thing, I couldn't remember if I had talked about this or not, but I did start watching a show, called Starcrossed.
Oh, it was a CW show from a couple years back.
No. I'm sorry. So it's called Still Starcrossed because there was a show called Starcrossed a few years back. It's based on a book that I think was called Starcrossed, but then they had to call it Still Starcrossed on TV because it was because they didn't want to confuse it with that other TV show. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the premise behind the show, it's a show that's on like ABC Family, maybe, or whatever it's called now. I think that's what it is. I've been watching it on Hulu. And the premise behind it is, okay, so you have Romeo and Juliet. What if after Romeo and Juliet died, Juliet's cousin,
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Right, so what if Benvolio and Rosalind were like super hot for each other, and then they had to like get fake married, but she was also secretly, dating the prince, and it's exactly as bananas as it sounds. It's like equal parts terrible and amazing. So I have been enjoying it immensely.
That does sound pretty. I remember seeing the preview for it. I'm like, that sounds. We're really going to go there with this, aren't we?
Yeah, but you know what? It is a lot of fun, and it's definitely in the spirit. I feel like Shakespeare would be very proud to hear. Shakespeare would be very proud to know that people are continuing to like mine his work for, further stories. Given the number of stories he, took from a tradition as opposed to creating of his own accord whole cloth.
Are you one of those people who don't believe Shakespeare wrote his own stuff?
No, I think that's dumb.
Should I call you Ronald Emmerich? Didn't he make a movie on that a couple of years ago?
Oh my God. I never saw it, but I listened to a podcast where they talked about it.
That was Ronald Emmerich, wasn't it, though? I want to say it was.
I think so. It was called Anonymous.
Yeah.
And it definitely involved, like, Shakespeare was secretly the bastard son of Queen Elizabeth, but then also sleeps with Queen Elizabeth, if I remember correctly. So he has kind of unknowing incest with his mother, which, I mean, who hasn't had that happen to them? But yeah,
that story actually just sounds pretty amazing.
Anyway, no, I think Shakespeare wrote his own stuff, and I think when you see people saying, no, it had to have been Sir Francis Bacon, it had to have been other people, I tend to think those people are very, very, elitist, that they think that only people who, went to fancy colleges can write plays, which is silly. And also, I mean, just anytime there's a conspiracy theory, I tend to think, that's sort of ridiculous because most, not to say none of it ever turns out to be accurate, but anytime you have a secret, people are going to talk. So
Alex Jones is a national hero. He knows what's up. The lizard people are going to invade.
I thought about watching his interview with Megyn Kelly, and then I just stuck my entire hand in a blender instead.
Anything else worth mentioning, or should we move on to Kimmy Schmidt?
No, I think we're good. I think we're ready for the topic.
Damn it!
I have been singing the theme song nonstop.
It's
all week.
Incredibly catchy.
Incredibly.
It's been stuck in my head for the last 3 weeks or however long I've been watching the season. So, as you know, Jen, the only Kimmy Schmidt I've seen has been this season and the first episode. Because I knew when you brought up this topic for Jen Month, I knew I was not going to be able to get through nearly 40 episodes worth of show. That's insane. So my knowledge of the show is just limited to that. Have you been watching the show since the beginning?
I have. So I watched the first season, within about a week or two of it coming out. Watched the second season, and now I've watched the third season. Now I have not gone back and rewatched any episodes from previous seasons, but I have seen every episode over the span of the 2.5 years or whatever they've been putting them out.
And what's your take on the show? I'm assuming you like it, although that's why you're still with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think the first season. So one of the things that's interesting that kind of happened with the first season was that it was supposed to be on NBC, like it had been sold to NBC, right? And then in the middle of filming, NBC was like, actually, why would we stick with Tina Fey? It's not like she gave us a show previous to this. So instead, they sold it to Netflix. And it happened around, I believe, episode 9. And so when you're watching the first season, you can kind of see this change where it goes from being, first of all, every episode's 22 minutes because it's NBC. And then you see that not only do the episodes start getting longer, but it definitely starts getting a little darker. And I think, that was what really intrigued me, was seeing how dark it could be and how this premise wouldn't just be. I mean, it's still a very funny, sunny show. It definitely puts me in a good mood in terms of seeing a character who's kind of aggressively, relentlessly cheerful. But I would say it definitely has, this kind of dark side. And I think that's something that's really interesting.
It's odd that NBC decided to get rid of it. I knew it was going to NBC, but I didn't know the how it switched to Netflix.
Right. Yeah. No. So it was originally shown, or it was originally sold to them. They put the money in, or what have you. I don't super understand how it works, but they decided they were going to do this show, and then just decided not to, and sold it to Netflix, which I think is really interesting because there's definitely, you see these fan campaigns around the streaming sites anytime a major TV show, a major TV station decides to dump a show, okay, we canceled it. It was only on 2 seasons or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, Netflix, come save this show. Mm-hmm. And then, so to see this happen before the show had even, finished filming or started airing was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is. But so about the show. I don't know. I have no question.
So, did you enjoy it? Now you've seen. Did you watch the whole third season?
I finished the whole third season the other day.
Mm-hmm.
My reaction to the show is it's cute. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it's perfectly serviceable. I don't think it's my style of comedy. I like things that tend to have a little more edge to them. I feel this is a very safe type of comedy show, something that would feel at home on NBC or something like that. Like, and by things, what I mean by edge, like I like shows that they have a little more bite to them, such as things like Seinfeld was back in the '90s, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Silicon Valley, to an extent Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like things like that. They have that sort of they try to push the envelope in certain ways. But in terms of the actual show itself, I mean, I could see why people will like this show. It is very upbeat, almost obnoxiously so, but that's the character. I think Ellie Kemper does that is how you pronounce it, Ellie Kemper?
Yeah.
I think she does a great job, even though she's kind of playing the same character she played in The Office. But that's her shtick, so it works. My only criticism for her is that, and it has nothing to do with her, is that, and I know this is like a cartoon world they kind of live in, but she's one of those characters that is too dumb to live. That, like, if someone was really like that in the real world, they would be dead by now. But then again, it's a hyper-realistic world, so I know it's in place for what the world... She's in... I can't talk, I apologize. She's sort of appropriate for the world that she inhabits.
Sure. And I think that can be fine. I think, as with any TV show or any, world building, I think sometimes you set standards. And there are definitely shows I watch, where I look and I say, okay, this is not how the real world works, but within the context of the show or the movie or whatever,
right,
I will accept that, this is how you are going to behave. It's consistent within the character, even if it's not consistent within the real world. Like, obviously, anything that affordable in New York is probably, an area that's very scary.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that a lot, to see how the, it's definitely more realistic in terms of that than like a Friends, where everybody has these gorgeous large apartments, in Manhattan. And they're like, okay, our floor is made out of dirt. Our walls are made out of cardboard. I am going to, do all these extreme cost-saving measures, which I think kind of, one of the things that I think is always baffling. Not that I wouldn't live in New York, but I have definitely known people who have lived in New York who have, they like paid $900 a month to sleep in a spare bedroom in somebody else's house, or, people who like literally have lived in closets, and you're like, I don't entirely understand that,
Yeah, it's...
I mean, I think as a person, I don't think I need endless space, but I think I need more space than that. It's like anytime I watch one of those tiny house shows, and I get so mad. Don't live in those stupid houses.
The Kiwi will disagree with you on that. She wants to live in one of those so badly, and I'm like, no.
Listen, I have been to your house, and I will say that, first of all, she may think she wants to live in one of those, but that is not what when she went and she bought a house, she did not buy a house that was a tiny house. She went and bought a house that had, your TV, the TV you have is larger than some of those tiny houses.
She tells me, because I've brought this has been a topic and in the past for us, and I've brought that up, and she'd be like, no, we will just like downgrade and get rid of the stuff that we don't need. I'm like, okay, we'll see about that. But
can I get the TV?
No, that's going with me, because I will not be moving into the tiny house with her.
Oh, poor Kiwi.
But
To be fair, it would be your fault.
yeah.
Anyway, enough about that. Back to Kimmy Schmidt. So how much of which do you think was the bigger earworm? Titus's hit song about boobs or the theme song?
I guess it depends on what point in the season that you're watching. Because by that final episode, that the boobs in California I was humming that most of the day today.
Yeah, right? It's, the first time you hear it, you're like, wow, that was dumb. And then eventually you're just like, you know what? If this was on the radio, I would play it. I would sing it.
And that would totally be a song that would be on, like, pop radio, too.
Absolutely. I did not check if it's on, I guess it's not iTunes anymore, but I wonder if it is on there.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. The show can make some quick revenue from something like that.
You can make good money putting up songs, It's like back in like 2006 when you could make good money. You don't know about this because your phone is from 1994, but people get these things, they're called like ringtones.
I have ringtones.
Oh, how cute. So anyway, people would get these, they'd like pay money to get a ringtone, usually of a song that involved someone saying the word phone so that then they could sell it to make ringtones. It was amazing.
So anyway, going back to Kimmy Schmidt, the show reminded me of, which shouldn't become a surprise, but it reminded me a lot of 30 Rock in terms of how it was shot, the pacing of the show. Obviously, it's a Tina Fey production.
Yeah, I think her ethereal voice is definitely felt in this.
Yeah, so I mean, it was that was the first thing I picked up on. Like, oh wow, this is I'm being thrown back to when I occasionally watch the 30 Rock, but I'm curious to know how many people she brought over from that production staff to produce this show as well. If there is a lot of crossover or if not.
You definitely see a lot of the actors pop up again and again.
Yeah, there was what's her face? She was also Natalie McBeal. Jane Krasinski. Krasowski.
Yeah, no, she's definitely a repeat, but you see Lutz in an episode, and you see, what is the other guy's name? It doesn't matter. We don't know any of their names. But she's definitely had some of the people from 30 Rock come and do a quick cameo, which is cute.
I was surprised at the guest stars they had on the show. They got some pretty decent names for...
Absolutely.
Like Ray Liotta was in an episode this past season. Anna Camp was in an episode this past season.
Yeah.
And
I think my favorite, though, had to be having Daveed Diggs from Hamilton in it. That was a lot of fun. And when in the episode where he is going to rap, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be great.
And he's terrible at it.
And he's terrible. And I was not even expecting that a little bit, and it was so funny to me. But so I think he was probably my favorite pop up in the season. Who was your favorite?
Ray Liotta.
Yeah, no, he's great, right?
I'm a fan of Ray Liotta's work, and I'm probably wrong because I'm not an expert on his filmography, but has he done television in the past?
I am not sure. Let me look it up. Ray Liotta. Yeah, no, his character was great.
I love how he was playing, like he was going against type, where he was like such a schlub and an idiot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a lot of fun. Fun story. So he plays the clerk at the gas station. Earlier in the season, I think it was around episode 5, they go to the gas station when Titus has scurvy, and they're looking for fruits and vegetables, which of course they do not find because, bodegas. And the bodega owner was actually a guy I went to college with, which I didn't realize. Yeah, maybe he talked about it on Facebook and I just didn't process it. I'm not absolutely positive he did. So it was a really quick scene. But I definitely was watching and I was like, oh my gosh, I went to school with this guy. And so I went and looked it up just to be sure that I wasn't, typecasting or something. It was definitely him. So that was pretty entertaining for me.
So basically what you're saying is he can get you to meet Kimmy Schmidt or Ellie Kemper and Tina Fey.
I can only assume they're best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, you know what? Thank God. It's about time somebody introduced me to famous people.
Well, you met Jean-Ralphio.
I did. It was pretty great.
I met Supergirl.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you're one of your Comic-Cons?
Yeah, I got my picture taken with her.
Oh my God. Can that be the picture for this episode? Is just for no reason
Me
you and Supergirl?
I guess it could be. That'd be very random, but there you go.
People would enjoy it. The fans are clamoring for it.
I'm sure. The fan. Anyway, I love seeing John Hamm in there. John Hamm is an actor that I'm surprised hasn't done more. Especially after Mad Men and how his star was kind of rising, how the quality of actor. I feel like he's on the cusp that if he wants to be an A-list actor in Hollywood, I think he could do it, but he's just like, nah, I'm good. And he does all these like crazy little bit roles here and there.
Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes you have to wonder because he definitely, he has talent. He's still good looking, for now at least. He could definitely get another job if he wants. So you kind of wonder, okay, let me change what I'm saying. I assume he could get a job. To be fair to John Hamm, also, sometimes when you've had a really iconic role, it can be difficult to get work, especially if you want to get work that's not just a retread of your very famous character.
True.
So that could be it. But part of me thinks, he made a bunch of money and now he's only going to act when he cares to act.
Yeah, I mean, that you might very well be right on that one.
Yeah. And I mean, I think my impression, I don't know John Hamm, yet, but my impression of him is that he just has a lot of fun coming and playing this bad guy.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's crazy, and like his character's definitely crazy, and it works for him. He's clearly having like the time of his life with it. So
absolutely. Now here's the question. So one of the critiques. So I have not done a lot of reading on what other people thought about the season, but there were some people who felt as if the little bit I did read, people were saying they felt as if the show was kind of rehashing old plot lines. Now, obviously, you are not aware of those plot lines as you've only seen one other episode. So to you, did it feel like things felt rehashed, or did it feel, kind of fresh and funny to come in and watch it and not know what to expect?
I guess the latter. I mean, without having seen the other episodes or anything, I'm not even in a good spot to determine whether the show is rehashing things or not. So I don't have a basis for judgment on that, but it seemed fine. I mean, I get the impression that Titus's storyline with him trying to get his ex-boyfriend back, that's a very common trope in a lot of TV shows as it is, so I could see that being something that may have played out in previous seasons, but from the little, I don't know. Do you feel that way?
It's a little bit tough, right, when you've got a kind of long-running show. I mean, so they're in 3 seasons. They've gotten renewed for the 4th season, although I don't know if they knew that when they were doing the 3rd season. Although I would suspect they suspected.
Yeah.
So I think they definitely are doing a lot to keep plot lines open, Like, you can have Kimmy go to college, but Kimmy can't leave the apartment, because if she leaves the apartment, then you have no reason to keep following up with Lillian and Titus. So, even though she got into college and had this full ride, they didn't put her in a dorm. Stuff like that. And that's just kind of something that I think any show that runs for longer than a season, you can have a little bit of trouble trying to have the characters move forward because right. So
can I speak on the college aspect there for a second?
Oh, definitely.
Because this is kind of my world that I work in. And I know the show's not realistic, and there's some caveats that you have to just kind of go with. But one, I could see Kimmy not wanting to leave the apartment because those are her friends and everything, and she would want to still be close to them. And two, even though she had a full ride, that may not necessarily have covered dorm room expenses.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
So there you go. I've just explained it away. I win a no prize. But
yeah, no, I guess my point is just that, there's a certain amount of, the same way that characters are generally not allowed to like develop romantic attachments, because then you're forced to either bring on someone new or write them off or whatever, unless it's two characters who are already on the show, you kind of don't want to set them up into like long-term relationships, things like that can make it difficult for characters to kind of grow organically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, something like Titus breaking up with his boyfriend, but then continuing to follow him around. Well, if the show decides to put them together in the end, they're not going to get back together until the last, 3 episodes.
Right.
Which is generally how that goes.
That plotline confused me because Titus broke up with him because he didn't want him to be his. He wanted Michael to explore other relationships to find out what exactly he wants, and then
right.
I feel like out of nowhere during the latter half of the season, Titus is like, I want him back, and that's my new motivation. Like it felt very, it felt odd. Like I don't know where it came from. Like I feel like I missed the episode where he came to that realization. But
yeah, that's fair.
Can I just say I like Michael as a character because he's earnest, but he's so dopey at the same time.
Right.
Like how the actor plays him, you could almost say, "Oh, he's a bad actor because he phoned his lines in." Like, no, I think he's making a deliberate choice.
Yeah, no, I think they play him quite well. I don't think I know who the actor is.
I don't know. Some guy.
But yeah. But he's good. Right. Mr. Some Guy. Pretty good.
Can we briefly talk about Titus? And I guess to an extent...
Absolutely. America.
No, I can't think of... The rich woman who's friends...
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, yes. I'm surprised in this world of hashtag controversies that more people aren't upset at this show. For two reasons. Titus can be a very funny character. He's an oaf, he's lazy, but he also is like every single flamboyant stereotype that a gay person could be, which makes me wonder if Tina Fey has ever met an actual homosexual. That I can see like 20 years down the line, we'll look back on this show and be like, ooh, this may not have been the smartest move on certain things. I don't know. I could just see that. I like Titus. I think his character works well, but I could see them being like, it's not the most considerate portrayal. But,
so I have not read anything. So I haven't looked into. I haven't read anything of people being too mad. I think there might be two aspects to it. Number one, that it exists in this very heightened reality that he's not... Like, he is definitely a lot, but the whole world is a lot. So I think that's... it doesn't feel like they're saying that this guy would just exist in New York, that this is just, a random gay man living in New York. I think it's, a guy on this show where everybody's a lot.
I almost wonder if it helps that the actor himself is gay.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Is I think the fact that he's not, a straight actor. Like if he were a straight actor, I think I would be a little bit. Do we want to do this? Is this how we want to play this? I think when you're coming from a place of like real life, I think it can be a little bit. You're less likely to get accused of stereotyping, the same way that there are certain things that if an African American actor is going to be in something, and if it's being directed by an African American director, you're going to trust it a little bit more. Not to say that something weird couldn't get through, but you tend to give the benefit of the doubt when people are actually playing characters kind of written or portrayed by their actual minority group.
And then the second thing I'm curious, I'm surprised there hasn't, and you might know more. Now, I get it. I understand the gag. But Jacqueline, she's played by like the whitest white actress you could possibly have in a show, is in reality Native American, and
right.
That's the joke. But I could see people in our reactionary world that we live in, like take to offense and start up like, well, why couldn't they get a Native American actor? This is just whitewashing. Especially when you see so much of this stuff, like the recent Iron Fist TV show, people were upset about that, despite the fact that the character's whiteness is kind of the key component to his setup. You see things like, remember a couple of years ago the movie by the Wachowskis, Cloud Atlas, where
yes,
they had actors play multiple characters across ethnicities and whatnot because they're supposed to be a reincarnation sort of thing. People were upset that white actors were taking away acting jobs from theoretically Asian actors, completely missing the point of what the movie was trying to do. And it's that mentality that I'm surprised people aren't upset about this. Do you see what I'm saying?
I mean, right. I definitely, I will say, I think that the Native American plotline is, it's a little weird. I kind of get what they're going for, and it's nice that they cast actual Native Americans as her parents.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love it. I don't know that whatever story they're trying to tell there really translated. Which is unfortunate because I think that could be some interesting plot lines, but I do wish it had gone to an actual like Native American actress. When did they introduce that element to her character? In the first season.
Okay, so they kind of knew that going in. It's not like
right. That's been a storyline the whole time.
It's not like they casted Jane Krasinski or however you pronounce her name, and then they decided midway through, what would be a funny thing? What if you're really this?
Right. I don't know when they wrote that versus when they decided. I mean, given that she and Tina Fey are have clearly worked together in the past, it makes me think that they wrote the storyline knowing they were going to cast her, but it's hard to say because also on 30 Rock they were originally going to have oh gosh, what's her name? The one who played the professor on the show. Rachel Dratch.
Oh, the professor and played the professor's wife?
Right. The one who played the professor, Rachel Dratch, was supposed to originally be the role of Jenna on 30 Rock that eventually went to Jane. So,
weird.
It's always hard to know. Right, it would have been a very different character. So it's really hard to say when they decide to write things versus when they cast things, and what stays and what I just don't know. I feel like I haven't seen a lot about it on TV, so I don't know if I feel like I haven't seen. I'm sorry. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of people complaining about the plotline, but I don't know if I just haven't read those complaints. I don't know if they're out there and I just haven't seen them. Mm-hmm. It's a weird sort of dicey thing. I don't think whatever they're doing there is really working, but
It was just a casual thought. I don't know if.
Yeah, no, I would be interested on hearing from some of the groups represented what they think about it, and where they are comfortable with the storylines or not comfortable.
Yeah. What was a highlight for you this season?
Gosh, I thought it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I thought Daveed Diggs rapping badly was great. And I kind of enjoyed their little, courtship, friendship going on. I thought that was very cute. But if I had to pick
I want to be a reverend. Get away from me!
Right, which was very cute because, I liked their whole, their bus conversations about, oh, we didn't really get to be wild and crazy when we were young. Why would we want to? That kind of thing. I think that was delightful to watch. But if I had to pick a highlight, I think my favorite episode was probably, oh gosh, maybe the one where they're in the storm bunker. I think that was pretty fun.
Oh.
What about you? What was your favorite episode?
The one where I think the episode was titled "Kimmy Becomes a Feminist." I can't talk.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I can't say the word. Feminist. There we go.
Yes, that one was good. Where she's talking to all the girls from college and
yes.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Not to get political, but my leanings tend to be left of center, and but one of the things that bug me about people who are on the left side of the political spectrum is just the over the top ridiculousness of how they can view everyday situations. Not to say they're wrong, but at the same time, it's like, come on, give it a rest. Especially college kids who are just getting into this for the first time, can be over the top. And this show skewered that so well. It was so wonderful and hilarious to see.
Right. But the characters still felt like actual people too. I think that was
yes.
That was part of it, was that you didn't get the feeling they were trying to be obnoxious. You got the feeling they just hadn't quite learned to modulate themselves yet.
And the thing is, like, I knew people exactly like that, and it rang very realistic. And even the subplot in that episode where Titus was trying to act straight to pretend to be Jacqueline's boyfriend or something like that.
All right, the best friend who was faking being gay just to
yes,
right, which is just a fun premise.
Yeah,
definitely brought out some of the best in both of the characters.
Yeah, it was just absolutely hysterical. It had me laughing throughout the entire thing. It was just so well done. I thoroughly enjoyed that episode.
That was definitely a highlight.
So, yeah. So, are you excited for the fourth season? Oh, yeah. I'll ask. I have a question, but let me ask you this one first. Are you excited about the fourth season?
Oh, sure. I will definitely watch next summer when it comes out.
I felt all the plot lines this season they all had a good conclusion for the most part. Like, Jacqueline found what she wanted to do. Kimmy kind of got a new job, a new direction in life. Titus kind of came to terms with his own little craziness over, with his own honesty and trying to become a better person. But I felt the only one dangling was Carol Kane's character. Like, she never reunited with what's his name, the dad from Home Alone.
With the dad from Home Alone. No, that's true. She didn't. That is annoying. Yeah, I guess she really didn't. She was going to. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets picked up then again next season, or if we just never see him again because he's died of his heart condition.
I guess they could. I guess it depends on if they get what's his name? John Hurd, is that his name? The actor? If they get him back next season.
Yeah. Right. Sometimes you definitely see shows where characters are killed off prematurely, or and if you look, it's because somebody was busy or somebody just didn't want to come back, or occasionally someone died off screen.
I wonder if that was the case of David Cross, or if they just wanted the visual gag of Jacqueline's husband coming out of his coma attractive.
I did think that that it was maybe that he just wasn't available, which is fine with me. I think David Cross is annoying.
I like David Cross. Like, his stand-up is just awful.
Is it?
Here's the thing. His stand-up can be funny, but when he starts going into his political humor, it stops being jokes and just becomes a rant. And, I could take him in small doses depending on what project that he is doing. Like, I loved him in Arrested Development. I love the show Mr. Show. If you remember that sketch comedy show from the 90s.
I never watched it, but yeah,
it's very zany. Like, when he's good, he's good. But yeah,
I can't. He's somehow married to Amber Tamberlin, which is confusing to me.
Mind blown. We were talking about earlier about distance in relationship ages. There's a perfect example there.
Right. Anyway, yeah, no, I find him annoying, so I was fine with him being replaced. So, that's okay. I loved his brother on the show, played by, what's his name from?
Josh Charles?
Yes, played from the guy from Good Wife.
Yes. He was he played like the sleazy brother-in-law type very, very well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they clearly had some good him and Jacqueline clearly had some great chemistry and just good bouncing of humors.
Who was the actor who played the father? I feel like I've seen him in something else.
You definitely have. I could not tell you.
I like how they changed the Redskins' names to the Washington Gun Takers.
I did not know how they were going to resolve that whole plot line, because that is a tall order, because everyone who's involved in sports is out of their minds. Like, anytime they talk about getting rid of the Washington's Redskins name, everyone just acts as if people are trying to take their guns. I think that was a pretty brilliant way to play that. Given that, and I thought it was very interesting and timely that this happened to happen, or that I happened to watch. So obviously the season got released a bit ago, but I finally have now watched right as they had a Supreme Court case get answered that was all about whether or not offensive names could be copywritten, whether you could, or trademarked, whether you could trademark offensive names, which I've been listening to a lot on my NPR podcast. They've been talking about it. And one of the so the case originally started because there was this band, and I'm not going to remember the guy's name, but basically this guy starts a band, has all Asian people in it, and decides to go with the name The Slants off of the fact that a lot of people will say Asian people have slanted eyes.
I don't mean to laugh, but I'm laughing at how, offensive that could be.
Right, which is interesting. It's a really interesting case. So then he wanted to trademark the name, and they wouldn't let him. And of course, it's very hard, because if they say, well, we're not going to trademark names that are offensive, there definitely are, and then he would pull out this list of names that have gotten approved that, of course, had a bunch of offensive names on there, too. And, obviously it's a little bit different if they're, he basically said that because the name was combined with the imagery of the people who are in the band on the website, therefore, but if the band had been all white guys and they called themselves the Slants, then they would have gotten the copyright. And, if you don't, the trademark, and if you don't have a trademark on your name, or can't trademark your name, a lot of these bigger venues and concert, series and whatever will not hire you, will not bring you on, which is, obviously not something I think about, because my band broke up a long time ago. But anyway, so it was a really interesting case because, he wanted to be able to trademark this. The trademark office said that it was offensive, and then of course, the Washington Redskins go in there, and they're basically piggybacking off of this, this small band's coattails, saying, "Oh, well, so what about us? What about us?" And so it's definitely this very awkward thing where, like, on the one hand, you're like, yeah, this Asian guy who wants to create this Asian band should get to, do what he wants with the name. But then, like, oh, but I really wish we could just get rid of that name for these, these white owners who are insisting that this name is the most important thing in the world, Oh, it's just not, yeah. I mean, obviously we could go on about that, but so it was very interesting because this was the week that case got settled, and they all voted. Everyone on the court had voted that offensive names should be allowed to be trademarked. So now is the time if you were going to trademark any names.
I would normally insert a joke right here, but
Don't
I think
do it.
I'll refrain for the betterment of my own...
Yeah, don't do it, white boy. Anyway, but so overall, do you think you will watch the 4th season?
Probably not. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and try to watch if I go back and watch the other seasons, then yeah, all right, I'll check out the 4th season. But if I don't, then I probably won't.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I think it's probably about time to wrap this up.
Yes. So, is this the last episode of Gen Month, or were you and the Gorehound still going to do the Handmaid's Tale?
That is currently the plan.
Okay, so next week we'll have the Handmaid's Tale. I will not be a part of that because I have not seen the show.
Sure.
If by some chance you guys don't do the Handmaid's Tale, then either we'll do a skip week or I'll put up the episode where my cousin and I talked about The Flash. So
sure,
one way or another, we'll have something up for you next week. So I don't have trivia. I just realized I don't have any trivia for Kimmy Schmidt, but I think we've talked
I would
enough.
say out of all the episodes we've ever done, you've had trivia maybe a third of the time.
Yeah, that's...
But you always announce it as if it's something new. Like, oh, I just remembered.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. I need to get on top of that. So, alrighty. I guess that'll do it for us. So, I'm Nick.
And I'm Jen.
This has been the All-New Culture Cast. We'll see you next week, everyone. You've been listening to the All-New Culture Cast, one of Chicagoland's finest podcasts.
You're making me fall asleep to death.
Well, I guess there's not much we can do about that. In the meantime, check out our blog at znculturecast.wordpress.com. Send us an email at nick.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Follow us on social media. Theme music by bensound.com. This has been a Saltwater production. Copyright 2017. Thanks for listening.
Sorry, he just informed me that Colossus is Russian in case you had forgotten. He did it in a Russian accent, too, so...